Hi, I want to make a quick video about this Marantz Model 16 amplifier because it is one of the amplifiers that fascinates me, and that has been fascinating me since I started playing with hi-fi and reading up on it, since forever. What makes this amplifier unique, firstly, it was launched in 1969, which is a couple of decades ago, over 50 years. Which is marvelous to think that this is more than 50 years old. And it's been at my place for just a standard capacitor revision exercise. Just replaced the electrolytic rail capacitors and some of the audio boards, but it's otherwise it's in perfect condition. It's perfect functioning condition. So that's marvelous for 50 years plus. It's also an amplifier that was still made under the original Marantz company brand, the original brand. If I just spin it around, it says here on the label that it was made in Sun Valley, California. And I find that so beautiful. But this is still one of the originals. This one obviously is made for the 240 volt market here in South Africa. So yeah, that's that. And a wonderful, marvelous thing that the designers did back then was to construct two true dual mono amplifiers blocks. These two blocks are independent from each other, and it's clearly demonstrated by this little plug. This is the power supply lead and the mains power supply lead that feeds the second amplifier, the left channel amplifier. And you simply plug it into the right channel amplifier socket and it gets power from this lead. If this lead was long enough, you could run the two blocks separately to a separate power strip. I love the way they've done the profile, the heatsink profiles. This was one single profile that they probably had feet made of, or yards made of. How would the Americans say that? Yards or meters, and then just cut them up to the right length, flip the one over for the side, and repeat on the side. With the transformer beautifully mounted in the middle, you can't see it through the perforated mesh there, but transformer sitting smack bang there in the middle. Then a reservoir cap there and one there. The driver transistors on the sides here, and then the audio board with all the little bits that's quite important here on the back, and a very short input lead going to the input blocking capacitor. So very well thought out. This thing was quite lovely to work on in terms of serviceability. I can also certainly give them all the praise for wonderful design. The circuit is also extremely fascinating. That for an amplifier that was built in the 60s, in the late 60s, it was quite advanced for its time. It featured dual power supply rails with a wonderfully symmetrical amplifier stage. It had speaker delay startup with DC offset protection and a speaker relay that disconnected the speaker, or the speaker was disconnected when you turn the amplifier on. Obviously, like any modern amplifier, there's a delay in the relays latches, and the moment there's trouble with the circuit, the relay opens up to protect the speaker from whatever's going on if there's something wrong in the circuit. It's got a VBE multiplier transistor that sits on the heatsink with the other output devices that does thermal tracking to keep the bias within bounds so that you don't get thermal runaway. It's got a traditional feedback loop that runs there to the divider network and the capacitor that sits to ground. It's beautiful, and The most striking thing of this circuit from this time is the use of an operational amplifier on the input that drives, that modulates the current running through these two transistors that sits on the rails. The emitters sits on the power rails, and then the collector current gets modulated, and that in turn drives that pair of transistors, which in turn drive the driver transistors, and then the final stages. So very modern approach. I was not aware that this type of circuitry was used in amplifiers as far back as the late 60s, because back then a device like an audio operational amplifier was quite an expensive bit, you know, the quality ones that was worthwhile using, which Marantz certainly did in this amplifier. So most designers opt for a regular Class A stage with a following VAS stage, and you know, very crude circuitry, and usually a quasi-complementary stage with a single power rail, a speaker blocking cap going out to the speaker. You know, if you think in the line of a Quad 303 or a Dynaco ST, what was that, the ST120, that was a solid state quasi-complementary single rail power amplifier from this era. So this thing was state of the art. This was the amplifier that you invested your hard-earned cash into when you were a hardcore audiophile. And it certainly still lives up to its status. It's magnificent. It's built to last. It sounds very good. It services easily. It's so classic, the styling. The one thing that's also so very wonderful about Marantz equipment from this era is that all of this text on the faceplate is etched into the aluminium. It is, you can run your finger over it and you can feel the letters. A blind man would be able to read that for all practical reasons. And then it's got this, like a type of a display thing that says power stereo amplifier. Unfortunately, it doesn't light up quite brightly. I just turned it on there. I just turned the other lights off. And there's the relays that just clicked. But it's got this very dim blue glow with two tiny little lamps that's mounted on each amplifier module. It just gently lights that up. So when you have this amplifier powered up in a dimly lit room, listening to Nat King Cole or Miles Davis or whomever, this will just give you that gentle glowing reminder that this is a state-of-the-art stereo power amplifier. It was made by Marantz in the United States in the golden era of hi-fi, and also in the infancy or the teenage years of transistor technology. This thing was state-of-the-art. It was in the year that the first man set foot on the moon. You know, huge technological leaps that was pioneered by the American space program. So this thing is just absolutely marvelous. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe my channel, and please leave some feedback about what you want to see, what videos you want to see me make about audio equipment. I make these videos as the equipment comes in. This unit is going to be collected today by its lucky owner, and it's going to be put into a lovely vintage system, and it's hopefully going to bring its new owner a lot of joy. It's just lovely. Thanks for watching.